If I'd known that writing a check for $380,000 would buy me betrayal instead of peace, I would have let them drown. The pen in my hand trembled slightly as I signed the final transfer papers. I didn't flinch, though. I've always had a talent for being composed, even when my world shifted like an earthquake beneath my feet. That day was no different, at least on the outside. Marcus stood behind me with both hands in his pockets, quiet, watchful. He always did that thing where he rocked on the balls of his feet when he was nervous, like he was balancing between truth and lies. But I didn't pay attention to that then. I was too busy saving the family he claimed meant everything to him. "You're incredible," he whispered once the transaction cleared, pressing a kiss to the top of my head like I was some sort of miracle. "You just saved my parents. You saved all of us, babe." I forced a smile and leaned into his chest. I remember thinking, God, I hope I'm not being stupid. But I was. Before we dive in, we'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below letting us know where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. We're excited to connect with all of you, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more amazing content. Now back to the story. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Danielle Cole. I'm 32. Born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. I own a boutique hotel chain that caters to Black women traveling solo. Danny Luxe. You might have heard of it if you ever typed "soft life vacation" into Instagram. I worked for everything I had. Nothing was handed to me. No generational wealth. No handouts. Just grit, an MBA, and 18-hour days for 5 years. And love. I thought Marcus was my reward for all the hard work. We met at a charity gala in Midtown Atlanta. He was the kind of man who drew attention without trying. Tall, with a quiet swagger and eyes that studied you like you were the only one in the room. He told me he was in finance, which is just vague enough to sound impressive without being questioned. We dated for 8 months. Married at 12. Everyone told me it was fast, but when you know, right? Well, started with small things. His phone was always face down. He'd traveled to New York once or twice a month and never wanted me to come. I chalked it up to trust. Relationships are built on it, I told myself. I was building an empire. I didn't have time to become suspicious. That was my first mistake. The second was saying yes when he asked me to help his parents. He didn't cry, but he looked like he could have. "Baby, my dad messed up. Took out some loans after his heart surgery. They're in danger of losing the house. Mom is overwhelmed. I can't watch them suffer like this." I said yes before he even finished talking. Not because I'm a fool, but because I loved him. The kind of love that makes you quiet your instincts and open your wallet. 3 days later, the transfer was done. No questions. No strings. He said he wanted to take me to the mountains for a weekend getaway. "Just us," he said. "No emails. No phones. Just trees, wine, and you." I thought it was sweet. Romantic even. But in hindsight, I think he knew the guilt was going to eat him alive. We arrived at a secluded cabin 2 hours outside Atlanta. It was peaceful, almost unnervingly so. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel like rest, but like the prelude to a storm. That night, after dinner, Marcus poured us glasses of wine and sat across from me in front of the fireplace. I was scrolling through my messages when he suddenly said, "I need to tell you something." I looked up, half smiling. "What did you break this time?" He didn't laugh. Instead, he leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes fixed on the flames. "I haven't been honest with you." That made me sit up straighter. "About what?" He didn't answer right away. Took a long sip of wine like it was liquid courage. Then he said it. "I have a daughter." My heart paused, then restarted with a strange thud. "Excuse me." He still didn't look at me. "Before I met you, I was with someone in New York. Her name's Serena. She got pregnant right as we were falling apart. I didn't think it was serious. We weren't even really together. I thought she was bluffing at first. But then she had the baby." The room spun. I remember the sound of the fire crackling. The tight grip I had on the blanket in my lap. "You said had. As in past tense. Is she gone?" No, he looked at me now finally. She's still in New York. With Ava. Our daughter. Our. I laughed, sharp and bitter. So you're telling me you have a secret daughter? And what? I'm just supposed to adjust. I didn't know how to tell you, he said, voice strained. At first it didn't feel real. And then when I met you, everything was so perfect. I didn't want to ruin it. I stood slowly, my chest tight. You've been flying to New York to see them, haven't you? He didn't deny it. And you used my money to pay off your family's debt, knowing full well you were living a lie. Asked, my voice rising. Danielle, it wasn't like that. No. Then explain it to me, Marcus. Because from where I'm standing, it feels exactly like that. I'm sorry. He stood too, reaching for me. I didn't know how to stop the train once it started. I kept thinking I'd find the right moment to tell you. After I signed another check. Or after your daughter turned 10. He stepped back, guilt finally showing on his face. You're angry. You have every right to be. But I'm telling you now because I want to make things right. A moment passed. Then I said very quietly, you want to make things right? He nodded. Then go to bed. He looked at me surprised. What? I said go to bed. We'll talk tomorrow. I need to think. I waited until he disappeared down the hall. Then I picked up his phone from the table. He forgot to lock it. In less than 5 minutes, I had airdropped everything to my laptop. His messages, logs, even the banking app he thought I didn't know he had. I found Serena's number and the photos of their daughter, Ava, who looked just like him. And I found something else. A series of wire transfers. From my account. To his. To hers. My hands trembled, but not from heartbreak. No, this wasn't heartbreak. This was rage cooling into clarity. That night I didn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, counting the exact ways he had played me. And by the time the sun came up, I knew one thing with certainty. He confessed to the wrong woman. 'Cause he thought I would break. He had no idea what I was about to do next. I waited until he left the cabin the next morning. Said he was going on a walk to clear his head. Told me he needed time to figure out how we could move forward. As if I was the one who detonated a bomb in our marriage. As soon as his footsteps disappeared down the gravel path, I snapped into motion. I opened my laptop, clicked into the folder I'd labeled Truth, and began digging. The phone backup I made the night before was a goldmine. And a graveyard. Every lie, every whisper behind my back, every business trip was there in black and white. Messages to Serena that made me sick. Voice notes of him saying I'm only married to her for the money, babe. The knife twisted deeper with every click. He called me a financial angel in one message. In another he told Serena to just hold on a little longer, and he'd figure out how to get out clean. Get out clean. I laughed. A sound that didn't feel like it belonged to me. He was planning an exit. A second chance with the woman he really loved. After everything I gave him, he still saw me as disposable. Copied everything onto a flash drive. Then I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Danielle. The voice on the other end was surprised. Hey Janelle. I need a favor. And it's not the small kind. Janelle King had been my best friend in college. She became a private investigator after law school didn't work out. She was brilliant, discreet, and expensive. I'm listening, she said. I want everything you can dig up on Marcus Cole. His employment, assets, known associates, bank accounts. If he ever got a parking ticket, I want it on paper. There was a pause. What happened? He confessed. That he's trash. I smiled bitterly. That and worse. He has a secret daughter. A whole life in New York. And I think he's been funneling money out of our accounts. Oh hell no. I'm coming over. When Marcus returned, I had already made the bed, packed my bags, and composed myself into an image of Grace under fire. You okay? He asked, eyes wary. Yeah, I said. I just needed to breathe. He looked relieved. Mistake number 1. I've been thinking too, he said. About everything. I know I broke your trust. But I still want this to work, Danielle. I want us. I just need time to make it right. I nodded, soft-spoken, pretending to believe him. Time sounds good. Inside, I was counting the hours until I could torch every lie he built. By the time we got back to Atlanta, Janelle had already sent over a preliminary report. And what she found was worse than I thought. Marcus didn't just lie. He created an entire performance. He wasn't employed in any financial firm at all. The business cards were fake. The clients he met were mostly women, old flames and new flings alike. The worst part, his LinkedIn was polished and credible. If you didn't dig deep, you'd never know it was fiction. He didn't have a salary. He was living off me. Every bill, every car note, every family loan, every flight to New York. Paid for it. What kind of man lets you buy his mama's house back, just to turn around and call you Plan B in a text? I was done crying by then. Done asking why. Some men just weren't broken. They were built wrong. The next weekend I flew to New York. Alone. I didn't tell him. I told my staff I was scouting locations for a new spa extension. Which wasn't a lie, just not my spa. I knew exactly where Serena lived. I'd seen her address on one of the transfer receipts Marcus forgot to delete from his hidden banking app. Queens. Not far from JFK. Modest brownstone. Gray shutters. A red bike in the front yard. I watched from the corner of the street for almost 20 minutes. Then I saw her. She was stunning. Mid-30s, tall, caramel skin, long braids that brushed her waist. She looked tired but elegant. Her daughter, Ava, trailed behind her in a puffy blue jacket, clutching a pink stuffed bear. Something in me cracked at the sight of that child. Not because she existed, but because she didn't ask to be born into this twisted web of lies. I didn't approach them that day. Not yet. I needed Serena to trust me. Back in Atlanta, I created a fake profile under a name I hadn't used in years. Nina Lewis. Old college ID, new burner number, believable background. I messaged Serena through a mom group she frequented online. Just moved to Queens. Looking for community. Your post about balancing work and motherhood really touched me. She responded 2 hours later. We started chatting regularly. Casual at first. Cooking. Dealing with toddlers. Then we moved to texts. Laughter. She was kind. Fiercely protective. And smart. Smarter than Marcus gave her credit for. After 2 weeks, she invited Nina for coffee. I sat across from her in a quiet cafe, listening to her describe how hard it was to raise a daughter with a man who was always between places. How Marcus promised he was building something permanent for them. He said he was going to divorce her, she said, sipping her tea. Oh, yeah, his wife. He said she was controlling. Soulless. Said she kept tabs on him like he was a child. And blinked. Sounds intense. She laughed bitterly. But I believed him. Like a damn fool. He's been saying that since Ava turned 1. She's almost 4 now. My hands tightened around my cup. Do you ever think he's lying? I pause. Sometimes I do. But then he brings her gifts from Atlanta. Like he's trying. Or he cries. Or tells me I'm the only real thing in his life. I don't know what to believe anymore. I reached into my purse. Slid a flash drive across the table. She stared at it. What's this? I looked her in the eyes. My name is Danielle. I'm his wife. The blood drained from her face. Everything you just told me. Everything he's told you. It's a lie. I've got the receipts. And I'm not here to fight you. Tears welled in her eyes. She didn't move. I'm here because I want him to pay. And I think you do too. That night she called me sobbing. He made me feel crazy, she said. I thought it was me. I thought I wasn't enough. Men like Marcus make careers out of making strong women feel small, I told her. We talked for hours. By the end she was in. The next few weeks moved quickly. I opened a separate account. Transferred every liquid asset I could. My lawyer drafted a quiet separation agreement with an ironclad clause. Marcus would walk away with nothing if he committed any acts of fraud during the marriage. He had already signed it last year. He never bothered to read the fine print. Idiot. I changed my power of attorney. Moved ownership of my business under a holding name, Cole and Crane, with Janelle as co-trustee. Marcus noticed, of course. "Why are the accounts acting weird?" he asked one morning, phone in hand. "Bank error," I said with a smile. "I'll call later." He kissed my forehead and went back to reading the news. I watched him from across the kitchen. The man who swore he loved me. The man who planned to leave me dry. And then I said the most dangerous thing I'd said in weeks. "I think we should renew our vows." He looked up stunned. "Really?" "Yeah. A fresh start." He beamed. That dumb, lying, smug smile I once found charming. "You mean it?" "Absolutely," I said, placing a hand on his chest. "Let's do it right this time. You, me, and everything in the open." I leaned close and whispered, "Wouldn't that be poetic?" He didn't hear the venom in my voice. But he would. When people hear revenge, they think of screaming matches, thrown glasses, dramatic exits. But real revenge, it's quiet, surgical. It's a smile at breakfast while you're setting fire to everything he thought he owned. I had exactly 13 days before our vow renewal. That's what he called it now. Like it was his idea. Like I hadn't planted it in his mouth like poisoned honey. He suggested a rooftop ceremony in Buckhead. "Intimate but elegant," he said. "Just close friends and family." What family, I wanted to ask. The ones I bailed out of foreclosure. Or the ones who pretended I didn't exist while he played house in New York. I told him I wanted it small. Simple. Meanwhile, I was orchestrating an implosion behind the scenes. I flew Serena down from New York 3 days later. I booked her into one of my hotels under a fake name. Paid for a nanny to watch Ava while she met with Janelle and me every afternoon. Serena wasn't the same woman I met over coffee. She was steel now. She'd seen the truth and it hardened her. And more importantly, she had receipts of her own. Love letters. Voice messages. Screenshots of Marcus asking her to, "Just wait till my name's off the papers, babe." He was referring to my house. We had everything we needed. Evidence of emotional abuse. Financial deceit. Hidden accounts. Declarations that proved intent to leave me while still draining me. Janelle looked at the compiled file and whistled. "He's cooked." "Not yet," I said. "Not until he suffers." I booked the rooftop at the hotel where we first danced together after our wedding. The irony wasn't lost on me. Marcus was thrilled. He spent hours picking suits, talking about vow ideas, calling me his ride or die. He even cried one night, saying he was grateful I forgave him, and that I was his whole world. Lying came so naturally to him. I wondered if he even believed his own performance. I did my part too. Smiled. Wore silk robes around the house. Let him touch me. Fed him affirmations. I was the perfect wife. He didn't know I'd frozen his cards 2 days prior. That the joint accounts he thought were his lifelines were just hollow shells now. I left just enough in there to keep him feeling stable. The night before the event, I got a text from Serena. He just messaged me. "Can't wait to be done with this chapter. Just hold on. Soon it's us." I stared at it for a long time. Done with this chapter. Like I was just a paragraph. Like I didn't carry his secrets, clean his lies, defend his name when his own family wouldn't. I took a deep breath and opened the email draft I'd prepared weeks earlier. Attached were PDFs, screenshots, and audio files. I scheduled it. Delivery. 4:15 p.m. tomorrow. To every major local media outlet. His company's compliance officer. And my divorce attorney. The rooftop was beautiful. White roses lined the aisle. A string quartet played softly in the background. Champagne flutes clinked in the golden sunset as our closest friends arrived, all unaware they were about to witness a war. I wore white. Not ivory, not off-white, but a crisp, merciless white. Like snow covering a battlefield. He wore navy. Tried to kiss my hand before we walked up together. "You look like everything I ever wanted," he whispered. I smiled and leaned in. "Enjoy it while it lasts." He blinked confused. But I was already turning toward the officiant. The vows began. He went first. Marcus talked about forgiveness. About redemption. About weathering storms. I wanted to laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was almost poetic how little self-awareness this man had. Then it was my turn. I held the mic and stared at him. "You know," I began, "when Marcus told me he had a daughter, I thought my world was ending. But instead, something else happened." He looked nervous. "I woke up," I said. "And when I woke up, I realized I wasn't looking at a husband. I was looking at a fraud. A con man." The room stilled. "You didn't marry me for love. You married me for access. And money. And the lifestyle you didn't earn." "Danielle," he muttered. I raised my hand. "I paid off your family's debt. I supported your fake career. I believed in you when I should have believed in myself. But what you didn't know," I smiled slowly, "is that I recorded everything." I turned to the audience. "This man has a second family. A child he never disclosed. And he has siphoned thousands from my business into hidden accounts." Someone dropped a glass. I handed the mic to the officiant and walked down the aisle. Cool, poised, every step deliberate. He was shouting now. "Danielle, wait. What the hell is this?" But I didn't turn around. Because Serena was waiting at the end of the aisle. With Ava in her arms. She walked forward. Stood next to me. And for the first time, everyone saw the child who bore his eyes. The crowd erupted. Someone screamed, "Are you serious?" Another man, his former colleague, grabbed him by the collar. "You dragged me into this damn wedding knowing you had that going on." But Marcus, he just stood there, frozen, and then his phone buzzed. And buzzed again. And again. I knew what was happening. The IRS notification. The email to his boss. The client list that showed he'd lied about his credentials. I didn't need to watch. I turned to Serena. "You ready?" She nodded. We walked out side by side. Two women. One truth. 3 hours later, I sat on my balcony sipping wine. My divorce attorney had already filed the paperwork. The prenup Marcus never read clearly stated, "Any financial dishonesty nullifies all claims to marital assets." He would walk away with nothing. The house was in my name. Cars. The accounts. Even the furniture. Serena called me, laughing through tears. "Girl, the news station already aired it. Channel 11. They called him the groom with 2 wives." Chuckled. "Could have been a Netflix special." He tried calling me 26 times. Block him. Done. Hung up. Leaned back into my chair. The city twinkled beneath me. And for the first time in months, my chest didn't feel like it was caving in. Marcus thought I'd cry. He thought I'd forgive. But I remembered who I was. Danielle Cole. Not the fool. Not the fallback. Not the ATM in heels. I was the woman who rewrote the ending. And he was just another bad chapter one closed. Marcus tried everything. By Monday morning, he'd sent over 30 emails, left voicemails on both my business and personal lines, and even had the audacity to send a bouquet of lilies to my office with a card that said, "We can fix this. I'm still your husband." The receptionist handed them to me with a look of concern. I didn't flinch. I threw them in the trash without breaking stride. Husband. Not anymore. By Thursday, his bank accounts were frozen. His name scrubbed from my business, and his reputation in Atlanta's social scene was radioactive. The IRS had launched a formal investigation into tax fraud, thanks to the anonymous file Janelle happened to submit. His fake investment firm was exposed, and the few clients he actually had, suing him. And still he called me. It was almost funny. One night I finally picked up. Just once. I wanted to hear the fall in his voice. "Danielle." he breathed, sounding hoarse. I made a mistake. No, I replied calmly. You lived a mistake. I was scared. Of what? Ooh, you're powerful. Mart. You walk into a room and everyone looks. I felt like I didn't matter. Like I'd always be second to your ambition. I let the silence sit between us. Then I said, you never tried to catch up, Marcus. You just stole from my lane. He said nothing. I'm going to hang up now. And you're never going to call me again. Blick. It felt better than I thought it would. The following week I held a press conference. Not because I needed sympathy, but because I wanted to reclaim the narrative. In a world that gossiped loudly and forgave men easily, I had no intention of shrinking in shame. My name is Danielle Cole, I began, standing behind a simple podium with no tears, no cracked voice, just clarity. I was deceived by a man I loved. A man who used me. But this isn't a tragedy. This is a testimony. I told the truth. About the lies. The fraud. The betrayal. I didn't cry. The world did that for me. Within hours, social media flooded with messages. Women sharing their own stories, survivors of emotional and financial abuse. My inbox was full of gratitude. One message stood out. You reminded me that walking away doesn't mean you're weak. Sometimes it's the strongest thing you can do. 45. I knew then. I'd struck something deeper than just revenge. This was liberation. A month passed. Serena and I stayed in touch. She moved to Atlanta with Ava, took a job at the corporate office of Danny Lux as the head of women's safety programs. An idea she brought to life from scratch. We weren't best friends. That would have been too neat a bow. But we were allies. Survivors. Sisters in war. One evening I invited her to dinner. Rooftop again, but this time just us. Feels strange being back up here, she said, sipping white wine. Better memories this time. She smiled. You know, he tried calling me again last week. From some burner number. Told me I ruined his life. He ruined his own life, I replied. We just turned on the lights. We clinked glasses. Below us the city glowed. Later that night I found a letter on my doorstep. No envelope. Just my name in shaky handwriting. Opened it. Danielle. I know you'll probably never read this. But I wanted to write it anyway. I don't know who I am anymore. Everything is gone. My job, my family, my name. I thought I could control it all. I thought I was the master of the story. But I was just another liar in a suit. Sorry. For what it's worth. Marcus. I stared at the paper for a long time. Then I shredded it. Closure isn't something people give you. You take it. 6 months later, Danny Lux opened its newest flagship location in Manhattan. The launch party was a full-circle moment. Champagne. Press. Laughter. I stood on the balcony in a tailored emerald dress, press badge clipped to my hip, watching Ava twirl in a pink satin dress while Serena chatted with guests. A woman approached me. You're Danielle Cole, right? She asked. He nodded. She extended a hand. I'm Dr. Michelle Banks. I run a center for women recovering from financial abuse and psychological manipulation. Your story. It gave us language for things we didn't know how to explain. Would you ever consider speaking at one of our events? I blinked. For a moment, the past flickered like a bad reel of film. And then I smiled. I'd be honored. In the months that followed, my name became more than just a brand. It became a beacon. I wrote a book titled The Pretty Lie. How I took my power back from the man who tried to steal it. It hit bestseller lists in 2 weeks. Was it revenge? No. It was reclamation. A year after the rooftop explosion, I got a call from Janelle. You'll never guess who just applied to work at a luxury dealership in Tampa. I laughed. Let me guess. Yep. Our boy Marcus. But the dealership ran a background check. Fraud alert popped up like fireworks. Serves him right. Guess what they did? What? They sent him a rejection email with a screenshot of your book cover attached. Said, we prefer our staff to be celebrated, not exposed. I nearly cried laughing. Janelle sighed, satisfied. You won, D. No, I said, smiling into the sun. I rose. He thought I would fall apart. Instead, I turned my pain into purpose. And that was the revenge he never saw coming.